For the first 18 years of my life, I called one of the most polluted cities on earth home. I lived in Jakarta, Indonesia, where we had flood days instead of snow days, and I grew up in a place where the rivers were cesspools. They were black from all of the trash that people would throw into the water, the waste that people would give off as they squatted amongst the rivers. I grew up in a culture where materialism was the norm, where money supposedly didn't bring happiness, but people kept buying nonetheless. And most of my friends at school were city boys. They were spoiled by that materialism. They didn't understand how else to fulfill themselves and the gaping hole inside of their souls. I felt like the change that I wanted to implement would be difficult, if not impossible. One of the people that I looked up to in this troubled times was my kung fu teacher. He used to tell me stories of the old Jakarta, where there were green spaces and you could go out to the mountains to fish with your friends, to go and hunt wild boar and live off the land for at least a bit. But I never had this experience myself. He would tell me of his stories of going to the Thousand Islands and hiking in the dense forest surrounding East Java. But I never had this experience until I moved to Seattle for university. I would hike up trails, living in a culture where sustainability and social justice were the norm for the first time in my life. And I understood that progress is drawn from the past instead of trying to be built from the future from scratch, from the achievements of others. Freshman year to me was a blur. I was finding friends with the same background and ethos as I was, and I was calling off the people who didn't have the same drive for sustainability that I did. But I still didn't understand that everything was a system, that the individual only exists in relation to the greater society. It was at the same time that my brother was chasing and pursuing agribusiness and permaculture in Australia. The key moment which changed my life would be sophomore year. That December, I would go back home to Jakarta. But it wasn't just Jakarta. I would go to eastern Indonesia and spend 3 days on a boat in Nusa Tenggara Timur, in eastern Indonesia. I was experiencing the pristine wilderness of the islands and sleeping on the deck of the boat at night, gazing at the Milky Way, sleeping under the stars and feeling the elements on my face. The experience and the sheer ethereality of it changed me. In a flash of lightning, the joy from doing the usual things, just buying, going to malls, buying expensive food, partying with my friends, social media, the illusion was cast off. It was vanished in a flash of lightning. Maya was no longer there. Heaven was cast away and desire became suffering, and I was no longer satisfied with the pseudo satisfiers which I had. Once I was exposed to natural beauty, I understood that this was consciousness. I understood that everything was interconnected, that sustainability, national pride, and the politicians who ran the country, they all were tied together in a sort of dance of humanity where it wasn't a question of black and white, of whether progress or sustainability could be taken individually, that they were not mutually exclusive, but it was more of a coexistence. So when I flew back to Jakarta from the islands, I met up with my kung fu teacher again. The gym was still as dirty and run down as it could be, and people were still living their daily lives. They were still going on and just consuming. I understood that everyone was still living their lives as they did because they didn't understand yet, that they didn't have the opportunities or the experiences that I did. But it wasn't about me, it was about spreading the message. It was about making other people understand because catharsis is a personal experience. So I flew back to Seattle with a mission. I decided to apply to the Jackson School and dedicate my life towards sparking a paradigm shift towards sustainability. Through studying a combination of international business, sustainability, and soft skills, I was determined to build a foundation. I now have a greater mission than just finding a 9 to 5 work grind or financial stability for myself, because it became clear to me that far from being about me, it's about looking past the individual and helping others mutually arise. I'm graduating UW in a year now and returning home in 2 weeks, and I'm as excited as I am nervous for the work that lies ahead. Jakarta is growing fast. Home seems like a new city every time I go back, and returning to carry out my dreams is gonna be a long road ahead. At least I know where I'm going. I believe that everyone can make the shift towards a holistic view of the world if we spread awareness. Cathartic experiences are few and far between, but the power of story lends others and leads them to find their own North Star, just like I did. Freedom is a state of mind. Just as the smoggy, starless skies of the city can feel like a clean home to a child who was raised knowing nothing else. Opening people's eyes to an alternative, more sustainable system is just as possible. While I can't put everyone on a boat for 3 days to experience the untouched wilderness, I can set an example of a sustainable lifestyle through the food I eat and the clothes I wear. Inspiring change starts from the self, as the self merely exists in relation to others. You can neither be caught up in trying to have your own needs met, or you can help fulfill the needs of others. Sometimes it just means taking a step back.